I guess I have to begin, Dr. Monckton, by expressing a little shock at the questioning that just went forward and some reference to your name. I think that's a little inappropriate, but if that's what we're going to do in this hearing, so be it. I do believe you were just told that because you're not a scientist, you didn't bring forward any scientific information or any information of any value to this hearing. Somehow I don't seem to agree with that. I think you brought forth an analysis of scientific information, which I thought was fairly clear, and I guess I'd like to see you at least have an opportunity to repaint that picture, because apparently some people in the room didn't understand that what you said was, here is scientific data, here is how it was presented, here is the conclusion that was drawn from that scientific data, and here is why that conclusion is in fact unsupported. And apparently that escaped the attention or the understanding of some people here. Is there a possibility we could call that graph back up and you could explain it to us?
May we have the slides again,
maybe
please?
We can get it the second time.
I'm most grateful. I think that obviously what is happening here is there's a certain amount of politics has crept in on one side of this debate.
What a shock.
And therefore inconvenient science has been dismissed as not being science at all. That is the IPCC's graph with the 4 separate trend lines on it. That, as I've said, is an inappropriate statistical technique. Next slide again.
Wait, just while we're on that one.
Yeah.
The purpose of those lines, this actually appears in the IPCC report.
It does 3 times, yes.
And all the lines slope upward at different angles.
That's right. As you get nearer to the present, they slope up at steeper and steeper angles. The implication, which is stated 3 times in the report, being that there is an acceleration of the rate of global warming. No, there isn't, as we see from the subsequent slides. First of all, if you choose different starting points and ending points for where you do your trend lines, you can make the lines go completely, make the trend go in completely the other direction. There you've got 1905 to 1945. It was warming at twice the rate of 1905 to 2005.
So it's the same, it's the exact same data.
Same data, same technique. It's a bogus technique, of course, and that's why you get completely opposite results depending on where you choose to start and end your trend line.
Incorrectly analyzed in the earlier graph to show a rapid increase in warming.
Exactly, and incorrectly analyzed again here.
Okay.
Next slide. Here is the true position, where you have the 3 parallel rapid rates of warming. The first 2 cannot have been caused by CO2 on any view. The increase in CO2 over those periods wasn't enough, even on the UN's formula, to cause that. The third one, we know, was largely caused, because it falls in the satellite era, largely caused by a naturally occurring decrease in cloud cover, chiefly in the tropics, allowing more sunlight to hit the ground. And that, if you use the UN's multiplying up of the warming effect of that, should have caused 1 Celsius degree, or 1.8 Fahrenheit of warming. Only 0.37 Celsius was in fact observed. So we now know that that third of the 3 rapid rates of warming was caused by a natural event almost entirely.
Could you clarify something for
of course
the panel and for the people in the room listening? What is the satellite era?
The satellite era, from about 1983 onwards, we had satellites up there not only measuring changes in global surface temperature, which they do by reference to platinum resistance thermometers, comparing that with the temperatures they see on the ground, but also changes in outgoing radiation and changes in cloud cover. And all of these satellite data show us exactly what has caused the warming of that most recent rapid period, and it was largely, in fact very nearly all, to do with the reduction in cloud cover that happened quite naturally over the period, nothing to do with CO2.
And with regard to, you don't take the position that there has not been warming.
There has been warming. You can see it on the graph there. Of course there's been warming. Mr. Chairman, you got that slightly wrong when you said I didn't say there's been warming. Of course there's been warming. What I'm saying is that in the one period we can tell about what caused the warming, the satellite period, it is clear that the warming was largely naturally caused. And there's paper after paper in the literature establishing this. Go on again, please. Next slide. This is Dr. Pinker's paper establishing that the warming of that period was caused largely by a naturally occurring reduction in cloud cover, extra sunlight reaching the ground. Next slide, please. And next one, we'll miss that one out. We'll go on here to the 11 models, I should say, all predicting very, very rapid rates of warming but this is the relationship between warming at the surface and extra outgoing long-wave radiation. Most of the models predict there will be less radiation escaping to space if you warm the surface. The truth, however, as you see in the middle panel now, that's the Earth Radiation Budget Experiment satellite measurement. It shows a very rapid increase in the amount of outgoing radiation escaping to space as you warm the surface. What that means, very simply, is that the radiation isn't being trapped down here to cause warming at anything like the rate that the UN predicts. And that's why Professor Lindzen of MIT has concluded that the amount of warming you can expect to get from a doubling of CO2 concentration, this is scientific measurement, not playing with Xbox 360 models, is only 0.7 Kelvin compared with the 3.26 plus or minus 0.69, which is the best estimate of the UN's climate panel. Now, 0.7 Kelvin for a doubling of CO2 concentration is small, harmless, and generally beneficial.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington State, Mr. Inslee.
And I would note there is a dispute about whether we actually landed on the moon, and there is a dispute about whether the Earth is round, and there is a dispute about gravity in some places. But there is no...
Sir.
We'll get to you, Lord Monckton, shortly. I was impressed. We're here as the House of Representatives to have the state of the science discussed about climate change. And I was impressed that those who have denied the threat this poses to the planet Earth couldn't produce one scientist, not one scientist, to propose a hypothesis to explain what the Earth is undergoing, all the changes we're undergoing now. They produced somebody that doesn't even have a background in scientists, and that's what they produced to try to convince Americans that somehow that this is a big hoax. I think that's impressive, or unimpressive, depending on how you look at it. So I want to ask about Lord Monckton's viewpoint and basis for that. Lord Monckton, when did you start serving in the House of Lords? I noticed you brought fraternal greetings from the Mother of Parliaments to Congress, to our athletic democracy. When did you start serving in the House of Lords?
Sir, I have never sat or voted in the House of Lords, as you have probably been informed.
Thank you. So basically, I want to understand.
House of Lords Act.
Thank you. You've answered my question.
Yes.
You come here, you call yourself a lord to try to convince the world to ignore something that threatens our grandkids, and you're not even a lord. Now, don't let me finish my question, then I'll let you speak.
Just one moment, sir.
No, excuse me, Lord Monckton, excuse me, in our athletic democracy, we'll ask the questions and you'll answer them. Thank you very much.
Very well, but you must not misstate, please, sir.
Excuse me. You come to our athletic democracy, sir, calling yourself Lord Monckton. Not only are you not a scientist, you're not even a lord who served in the House of Parliament. Isn't that correct? In the House of Lords. Is it correct you did not serve in the House of Lords?
I think I have already answered that one, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we not only have the deniers who have denied this clear science upon which there is enormous global consensus. They cannot only not produce one scientist to deny this clear consensus. They can't even send us a real lord from the House of Lords. Now, I think that says a lot about the status of this debate, which we should not be having, because we have an overwhelming consensus